How's it going? We are going over some commercial real estate today. Let's check it out. We are in South Beach, Miami Beach, Florida, one of the hottest markets in maybe the country, global destination for sure. And I am based out of Miami as well. Just want to give you an idea of what are some of the things that I look at when I'm looking at commercial real estate. I figure the easiest way to do it is just by showing and kind of going through it, and you might learn along the way. So I am going to just jump right into it. All right, so check this out. You have prime south of 5th restaurant space, turnkey and ready. So south of 5th, when you get off of the MacArthur Causeway, that takes you from the mainland to Miami Beach. That's 5th Street. So if you make a right, you're south of 5th. If you make a left, you're north of 5th. But south of 5th has this kind of cool neighborhood feel to it that is genuinely different than north of 5th. And south of 5th is more exclusive. It's higher end. There's some famous restaurants there like Joe's Stone Crab that might be one of the highest grossing restaurants in the United States at one point. And so it does have a notoriety that it's just very strong when it comes to business, generating restaurant sales from tourists and from locals. And South Beach has a very large local scene. It's not just tourism, actually. And I would say that if you are a tourist, you're probably going to Ocean Drive and you're staying between 5th and maybe 17th, and that might have even moved up to the 20s. And so south of 5th is more locals than there are tourists, maybe, or I don't actually have to look at the data to see if that's true, but it feels more local than touristy. And that's the type of product that these guys are trying to sell or lease. So let's just take a look at it and I'll give you some explanations as we go. So the project's called the Maria and it's 801 South Point Drive, Miami Beach, Florida, 33139. And it is a second gen restaurant space. So when they say second gen restaurant space, it just means that a lot of the infrastructure is already put in place. Perhaps a restaurant was there before and already did the build out, and so they want another restaurant to come in and just take advantage of the construction that was already completed within that space. So money was already spent. And it's pretty expensive to build out a restaurant. So some of the big ticket items within a restaurant would be that you need a larger amount of bathrooms than, let's just say, a retail store. So you're going to have multiple stalls for men's and women's bathrooms. Number two is the kitchen part. The kitchen part, I probably should have led with the kitchen actually, but the kitchen part, you have ventilation and a hood exhaust system. So that can get pretty pricey, especially when you're talking about more of a mixed use project. As you can see, this has some sort of residential above it. So it can get a little tricky with the ventilation. And the number of feet of the hood, the machinery itself, it's a great expense. Then below that is called the grease trap. The grease trap, let me go back to the hood actually. So what the hood is that underneath the hood, that's where all of your kitchen equipment is that you use for cooking, your fryers and your stoves and your ovens and things like that. And so it sucks out all of the air or the, I call it maybe like dirty air from the frying pan and things like that. And it takes it out of the space because otherwise you might have a smoky space if you didn't have a hood because you're just cooking all day there and you're cooking a lot of food. The other part of it is called the grease trap. And the grease trap is built in, at least in Florida, is underground. And what that does is it intercepts the grease from your drain lines before it gets into the city sewer system. And that's really important because if you didn't have a grease trap, and all the restaurants were just allowed to dump their grease into the city sewer system, you would have a big backup across the entire city. So now codes mandate that the grease is intercepted before that happens. And then every 2 weeks or every month, you bring in a grease trap cleaning service that sucks up all of that grease out of the trap. So that can get expensive, and that's what's needed. Additionally, you have upgraded electric. Usually the electric panel for a restaurant is much higher in amperage and in voltage because of the amount of draw of electricity from all of the equipment. Also, the HVAC systems are much more robust, meaning that for a 1,000 square foot retail space, you might only need 2.5 tons of HVAC. But if it was a 1,000 square foot restaurant space, you might need 5 tons of HVAC. So it's a little bit more than double, actually. And HVAC tonnage can get really expensive. 2.5 ton HVAC system right now might be running, I don't know, $5,000 to $10,000, and a 5 ton system might be running $10,000 to $20,000. So it can get pretty pricey. Additionally, what's in here in a second gen space is that you have your impact fees paid for to the city to allow for this kind of more intensive use. And it's usually a utilities impact fee, meaning that's going to impact water and sewer. And so they sometimes charge you by the seat. Sometimes it's just charged by the square footage of the seating area. Sometimes it's by the entire space itself. But those impact fees that you pay to even be allowed to operate as a restaurant can be $100,000 or more in some cases. I think this one's a little bit bigger space, so I'm sure is well over $100,000. What else is there are floor drains and a lot of the things that you don't think of from an infrastructure standpoint that restaurants are mandated to have by code. I'm not a construction person, so I went into as much detail as I could, being a owner operator of commercial real estate. So let's go into that. And this is a 6,458 square foot space of indoor space, and then 3,558 square feet of outdoor space. So we'll take a look at the pictures to see, how that lays out. But you can see that similar to what I was just saying is that the second generation turnkey restaurant is fully built out, and they say they have the hood system, the grease trap, the kitchen. So maybe there's like equipment there, and it's immediately ready to be occupied for fine dining or a lounge concept. Now, the equipment that's sitting there, a lot of restaurants end up leasing or even financing their equipment. So they have a lien on that equipment, meaning that if there was a restaurant here before and they went out of business, if they had leased that equipment, then that leasing company can go and repossess all of that restaurant equipment. But the minute they take out the restaurant equipment, that stuff's like worth 10 cents on the dollar or 20 cents on the dollar. It is definitely worth much less once they remove it from the space. So it's possible that either the former tenant didn't have financing on their equipment, or that the current owner of this real estate just bought the equipment from the finance company or leasing company at 25 cents on the dollar, thinking that that would be a selling feature for the next person. It's possible it could have been either way. A little known fact is that if you are a restaurant and you're signing a lease with a landlord and you build out the restaurant and you put in the equipment, and let's say you own your equipment outright, in almost every commercial lease, the landlord says, we're putting lien rights on your equipment, meaning that you can't just abandon the space and take all your equipment with you if you haven't finished your lease. So that's something that is in a lot of leases. Let's go. And then they talk about the expansive layout and outdoor dining. So you have about 10,000 square feet to work with altogether. And they're saying it's a high demand dining corridor, which is probably true. The demand is just, you could see it from the tenant sales. A lot of the tenants or a lot of restaurants in South Beach are chain restaurants. They have multiple locations. They have locations all over the world. They're in Vegas, they're in New York. And a lot of times the Miami location is their marquee location where they say we do the greatest amount of sales out of Miami Beach. And those sales volumes you get noticed because, like, for example, Joe's Stone Crab up the street, I forgot what the number is, but they might be doing $30 million or $40 million of sales out of that store. Or, I mean, for sure, at least 20 million. And their location is probably about 7,000 or 8,000 square feet. And so you do the math and they're doing like a crazy amount of sales per square foot. And that's what you use to tell if if it's a very good location or not. So they are asking $10 million to buy this place, and the delivery is to be determined, and the rent is upon request. So if you're trying to figure out what the rent would be, let's just kind of, just for argument's sake, use a cap rate approach to this. So if they think the value of the property is worth $10 million, and let's just say they believe that the cap rate, if it was leased up, should be 5%, which is a low cap rate, but I can see why it might be 5%. They're basically saying that the rent here should be about $500,000 per year. So $500,000 a year divided by your square footage, and usually when you're doing rent, they're only using your indoor square footage. I know you're getting outdoor also, but typically when you're writing the lease, it's just based on indoor. So I'm going to take the 6,458 square feet indoor, and basically they're trying to charge about $77 per square foot, triple net, for this location. And when I say triple net, I mean that's just the base rent. You still have to pay separately your real estate taxes per square foot for that space, your real estate insurance, and also the common area maintenance, which in a mixed-use project probably includes like an HOA fee or something like that. So very well might be that your total occupancy cost for this space is about $100 a square foot or more. And they are saying that this is a prestigious south of 5th location. Like I mentioned, this is a higher end part of Miami Beach. And it's in Miami Beach's most exclusive neighborhood, surrounded by luxury condos, boutique hotels, Class A office, and top restaurants, including Gaia from Dubai. I haven't been there, but it sounds really good. Prime visibility and accessibility. It's on a corner exposure with heavy foot traffic, dedicated valet drop-off on South Point Drive, and easy accessibility for both locals and visitors. Like I mentioned, this is a dual customer base. Both your tourists and your locals will go here. So let's pop open the flyer. There's nothing confidential here, so I think that you'll be able to see what I see. And let's take a look. So first things first is that this is the space right here. It's kind of like a rounded space, which is a little concerning sometimes, just because anytime you have curves like this, you just know it's an inefficient use of space inside. You like square spaces to lay things out. Anytime there's a curb, it looks cool, but it's just, you're going to be paying rent or dollars a square foot on space you're not really utilizing. So a lot of the things are repeated here in the more built out flyer for the space, but you can mention, or they mention that there's other nearby tenants like Carbone and Prime Fish and Call Me Gabby and Prime 112 and Prime Italian and Nikki Beach and Joe Stone Crab and things like that. Here's the exterior view. So you can see that this is the Gaia. So it looks like a brand new first generation construction, actually. I'm going to pull up the address in a minute just to see what's there now. But if it is, it's not really second generation. It's just first generation that was built out to be restaurant. But let's just see what it is. Here's a subject property. So that curved area is interior, and then you kind of have this like sidewalk area as your exterior. But then you have like stuff over here that they're charging you money for, that may or may not be usable. Like if you're running on operations inside of here and you have to service out here, I just don't know how much production you're going to be able to get out of this square footage. But also you can see that like Gaia has decent layout for the mixed use project. Like it's a little bit more squared off back here, so their back of the house can be a little bit more efficient. And then they have a little bit less curvy here. I mean, not compared to this is like a circle. Over here, it's a little bit more rectangular, so it's a little bit more efficient. And then you can see like the columns, right? I think these are probably columns. But over here, compared to this, like how are you going to lay this out and look at how jagged this is. So if you're trying to fit a kitchen in here, back of the house, it just gets very inefficient very quickly. So I'm not a huge fan of that. But let's take a look some more. Over here, you can see that this is the MacArthur Causeway, like I mentioned. And right here is 5th Street, like I mentioned. So south of 5th is just this whole area here. And this here is your main part of Miami Beach, South Beach at least. But south of 5th is like a really quaint neighborhood. And this is a better view of it. You have your famous Joe Stone Crab that I think does like massive amounts of business. And the subject property, it is right here next to a lot of these condos that I know are full-time residents, or at least according to their tax return, they're full-time residents. And you do get a lot of all year round traffic this way. Now, the tourists are going to be probably primarily going to this area here on Ocean Drive, but it's easy enough for them to go here. It's very close by, so I don't think that will be a barrier. Now you do have a marina here, and what's nice is that a lot of times with these marinas, you do get quite a bit of business from the boating traffic and the boaters and the yachties themselves. Here's some pictures. So it looks like it's already been built. Either that or it's a really good AI rendering, and perhaps that it really is second generation space, and maybe the first picture above was more of the architectural rendering from when they bought the space or they built the space. Built the space. So I'm curious to see if the inside actually looks like this, and you're getting all the FF&E. And FF&E stands for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, by the way. That is your real estate term of the day. FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. The furniture and the fixtures would be mostly the lighting and the drapes and things like that. And then the equipment is all of the kitchen equipment. I wish they would have had a picture of the kitchen because that's where a lot of the money is spent. And so you can kind of see some more pictures here. And you are not too far from, you're back here actually, right? So you're back here. We're matching it up. Boom. Boom, back here. Kind of back here somewhere. And let's go ahead and pull up the address. So 801 South Point Drive, Miami Beach. Let's take a look. So definitely already been built. Let's go ahead and drop the little guy here. This is the space itself. Let's look at more dates just to see how long it's been there. So it looks like it's been there since 2014, right? So 2014, it's under construction. 2016, it's here already. 2017, it looks like it was already turned into a restaurant of some sorts. 2018, still looks like it's occupied. And, might have been an okay restaurant. I've never eaten at this location before. There's some guy sitting here and kind of taking a siesta. So it gives you a little bit of idea there. Let's go ahead and look at the aerial view again. So you might be wondering about parking. South Beach is notoriously known for having very tough parking. So if you were to have a lot of customers come here, how do they park? There is this parking here that kind of services the entire area, so it gets filled up fairly quickly. I think it's going to be a lot of Ubers and ride shares, to be honest with you. And there's some street parking, and then there's locals that might just walk there, or there might be hotel guests that just walk there. And that's just how parking works on South Beach. It's just not easy. You go in there knowing that it's going to be difficult, and you just figure it out. But there's a lot of restaurants that do very well, and they've figured it out even with the difficult parking. Anyways, I don't have that much time today, and my name's Hugh Chen. I've been in commercial real estate 25 years, just teaching you a little bit about the industry, and I focus on retail shopping centers. Have a great one.